Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Let me introduce myself briefly. My name is Wilda Miftakhus and I am the one of the students at Academic Debate and Presentation class. In this opportunity, I'm going to present you about the use of English language during Norman invasion. I strongly believe that people nowadays know that English language is a universal language that is spoken by 1.5 billion people in this whole world. But any of you ever thought about the existence of English language at the past? Or any of you ever thought that English language ever nearly died? And we will figure out the answer through this presentation. And here is the agenda slide. We will talk about 5 parts regarding to the topic. First is background of the study, second research method, third story background, fourth result and discussion, and last is conclusion. Background of the study. The researcher conducted the study to analyze the existence of Old English during Norman invasion, who brought their language, called Old French, into England. The researcher conducted this study by using the theory of Bow and cables that was implemented on a book entitled A History of the English Language. And here is the story background. In 1066, Edward the Confessor, as the king of Anglo-Saxons, died. However, he has no descendants as his successor. So everyone in that society and Godwin himself as the king's advisor would think that Godwin's first son, called Harold, will inherit the positions of the king. But Edward the Confessor had advised the sons of his cousins called William. At the time, William was a Duke of Normandy, and Edward advised him to become the next king. When Norman's troops arrived arrived in England, there was Harold and his troops blocked the Norman, and there was a war that killed Harold. And this has become the beginning of the change of English use on 11th century. The result and discussion. First, English as a socially inferior class language. After killed English noble and crowning William to be the king, the government and the church were dominated by Norman. Therefore, Old French is considered the language of the nobility, and English language were used by only the native. For further information, the use of French were continued long until 13th century. The main factor of the long use of French is because the good relationship between Norman government and the British government. The second is English is not spoken by the nobility. It was certain that all nobles use French as their language everyday communication. We can take a look at the disappearance of English noble. In 1072, only one of the 12 princes from England was executed 4 years later, and this shows that no one used English at the palace. And there were some nobles who could understand and use English, but only in limited number, such as Henry II. He can understand English, but he unable to use and pronounce it. Also, his wife from Aquarantina need a guide to understand the English, and William the Conqueror himself had studied English to understand what were the problems that had been experienced by his society, but it not last long because he focused on the war, and therefore they thought that English language is not important and their activities do not require the English language, and they also think that Old French is more useful. And last of the result is English is commonly used on church. Wulstan from Worcester was the only bishop of Old England to maintain the position. In 1154, the Anglo-Saxons were still surviving in Peterborough. Many church members and abbots speak English with varying abilities, such as Gilbert Folliot of Normandy, Hugh of Norman, and Bert Saint Edmunds. They are fluent in English and able to use it when preaching and writing. And the ability to speak English in the middle of the 12th century became more common. And it was hoped that the church and educated people would use the two languages in general. And we are arrived in the conclusion slide. Norman conquest affect the use of English language on English just spoken only by socially inferior class, English not used in upper class, and English still surviving and develop in the better path. This also teaches that language can change and develop or even dead. It depends on the situation that allow the speaker to use. That's all from my presentation. Thank you for your attention and listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.